Yee! Well, I hope you're all doing well. And by the way, thanks for uh, I don't know what to say. It's really heartwarming that compliments are always nice, but what really makes me feel good is um, like one of my best friends when I was 12. She was doing the exercises from the first video with her kids, and she sent photos, and it's like, oh my god. I mean, I was actually kind of thinking of her when I was doing this because we used to do like, stuff like that when we were young. Um, we grew up in the 80s, so it was a different time. Anyway, thanks for the encouragement, and I'm really glad to be contributing because yeah, I'm bored too. I believe, well, a lot of you are hearing about there being shortages of test reagents, and reagents are just um, the things, the chemicals, whatever that they need in order to run the test. And the test that I think everybody is using is pretty standardized, and I think it's all coming from the same source, unless I miss my guess. And it requires taking a sample from the individual in the form of a nasal swab. Um, and in that swab, you have DNA from the individual. If the individual is carrying the virus, even if they're asymptomatic, the place where you're going to find the virus is in your nose. Apparently, because it's a respiratory virus, this is where it's going to enter first. So they're going to take that DNA on that swab and they're going to amplify it with something called PCR, which is polymerase chain reaction. And this was actually, I'm going to go so far as to say, invented by a genius named Kary Mullis, who was also a surfer, and he used to do a lot of inspirational chemicals. Anyway, it's not besides the point, but he was the one who brought this magnificent technology to our labs. And basically, with a very tiny amount of DNA from a virus, for example, you can use this technique to create multiple copies and amounts of DNA. And therefore, it's easy to detect. So it's very high, it's very efficient, and I believe that this is the only way currently that we're using to test for the presence of virus. Now, if any of you have ever gotten blood work done and checked for any other kind of virus, let's just say hepatitis. I'm a traveler of sorts, and I'm also responsible. So when first time I went to Europe, for example, and I was going to be going a little bit south, like into Greece and maybe Turkey, maybe even more south, I got vaccinated against hepatitis A and B. You can't get vaccinated against C because there isn't one. And so what happens when you get vaccinated against a virus is, depending on the type of vaccine, there are DNA vaccines, there are attenuated vaccines. I'm not going to go into that right now because this isn't about vaccines. Your own immune system is going to get primed or ready to take on a real introduction to the real virus, so-called. So the injection that you get it's going to be like sampler. so that your body is going to be able, your immune system is going to be able to see the virus when it encounters it in real life. That's probably a really weird phraseology, but I'm going to stick with it for now. So where was I? So typically, if you get blood work done, I get it done every year or so because I'm a little older, and it's good to make sure your LDLs and your glucose and your hemocritin, all this stuff is normal. And I always throw in the virus stuff as well. Like let's check to see if my I don't have any of these viruses, or that my antibody levels against hepatitis A and B or A, let's say, are present and accounted for. So that leads me into the next step in testing, and I've heard that the UK is very close to having an antibody test. Sorry for the interruption. This isn't a joke. Facebook's just wigging out. I'm getting constant notifications that the stuff that I've posted that they marked as spam, they put back, but my entire computer goes like, so I started getting all these latency issues in my video. So let's get back to it. Just to summarize, there are two ways that we're talking about today about testing for the presence of a virus. You can test for the virus by taking a sample and amplifying it, or you can test for the presence of antibodies. Now that's where we're going to start having fun today. See, I've been talking too much and not drawing enough. Okay? So I talked a little bit about immune responses the other day. My cat's like here, and it's kind of hard to multitask here, but anyway. I talked a little about immune responses the other day, and I don't think I mentioned the word antibody. And you've probably heard this word before, and maybe you know what they are. But I know that I talked about primary and secondary responses, so that's all tied into this antibody production thing, and the how your body, your immune system, mounts responses against unknown foreign pathogens, and how it's brilliantly able to allow you never to get sick from those pathogens again. I mean, it's fantastic. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what about the flu? We're not talking about the flu, okay? We're not talking about the flu right now. If you have questions about that, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So, what we've been talking about so far, just let me write a word, sorry. Detection methods. Okay, detection methods of virus. So we have two main ones that we're talking about. Okay, so the first one is DNA, and ours is a single-stranded RNA virus. But I was talking about the PCR as an example in terms of DNA amplification. So this is when we're talking about virus or viral genetic material that we're amplifying. So this is wow, this is hard. Amplification of viral. Oh, I'm pretty good at this. It's like better than when I'm writing normal. Genetic. Wow, I'm going to start doing this. Material. Let's see how it looks. Wow, that's good. So this is test number 1. Typically, what we do once we have developed a test And this is why we don't have it yet. These things don't just exist. We have to make them. We have to make a test that is able to detect the presence of a specific antibody. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what antibodies are. Antibodies look like this, and they actually do look like this. And they're produced by B cells. They're produced by a certain subset of B cells. We're not going to go that deeply into this. But safe to say that when your body first encounters a bug, a new pathogen, a new virus, whatever you want to call it, if after a certain amount of time, your body mounts a cellular immune response. So what that means, it's in the name, is it produces an army of cells, T cells and B cells, that coordinate in a coordinated way, fight off the pathogen in so many different beautiful ways. Some of them like kill pathogens directly. Some of them produce what we call cytokines. Some of them produce other mediator molecules that like punch holes in infected cells. And some of them, these B cells, which also, an army of these is created. It's called clonal expansion. Clones expansion. And as they go through this process of expansion, they produce these antibodies that are specifically aimed at removing that one virus. It's a one-to-one thing. It's really magical. And there are 5 types of antibodies. We're not going to go into that either. Maybe I should. No, it doesn't matter. An antibody detection test, I think they're going to check for one of the ones that is shaped like this. It's called IgG. There's also one that has 5 prongs, and it's called IgM, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So this clonal expansion of this population of specific B cells, these are NCOV 2019 specific B cells. These antibodies that they create, they are released. These are free agents, like pile driving through your body, circulating. And their only job is to bind and remove the material that they can detect and or bind. These are like really efficient virus removers or pathogen removers. So this is a part, this ties into that lock and key concept that I was talking about before with the spike protein binding this ACE2 enzyme. It's about binding of, like everything binds. I shouldn't say everything. Binding is a big thing in biology. So these guys, they bind some part of the virus. And they can swarm and remove. They can cause intracellular cascades to tell the cell, to self-destruct. There are a lot of ways that these guys function. But I'm getting off topic. The point is that these guys are made in large quantities. And when you're in the middle of, let's just say, a primary infection, which is like what we're all going to be going through when we first meet this virus, you're going to have a lot of these antibodies circulating. So an antibody detection test is going to detect the presence of these guys. So it's like the leaves rustling in the wind analogy. Like you're not actually going to be looking for, the monster that ran by. You're going to be looking for the effects of the monster that ran by, which is this. This is the byproduct. And it's very specific because it's specific. Um, it's been a long time since I thought about all this immunology stuff, so I hope I didn't get anything wrong. I'm going to try and double check myself. Uh, Immunology is not something I've officially studied since my Memorial University of Newfoundland days, so I hope I didn't humiliate anyone who taught me anything. So this is what we're moving toward right now. Now, there have been questions, and I have a lot of questions myself, about why people are coming up positive again. And what that means, what we can say for sure is what that means, since we've been using this method, viral detection method, not antibody, is that it could mean two things. Our viral amplification test might have come up negative for, I can think of two reasons off the top of my head. One, when the person was swabbed, it was too early after they think they'd been exposed. So there hadn't been lodging of virus in their nasal cavity yet. I don't know, like a few hours after you think you get infected. It's a theory. I don't know if this is true. So bad timing for going to get checked. That could be one reason. Another reason, which I think is more plausible, which I have to do more research on, is perhaps most viral detection tests have some kind of limit of detection. So I know in HIV, for example, because I used to work on this a lot, as I said, the limit of detection, like anything under 1.7 copies of the virus, viral DNA copies per microliter, I think. I could be getting that wrong, but there was a number, a certain amount per volume of plasma that if the virus load, which is the amount of virus circulating in the plasma and the blood, is below that, then you are called undetectable. So there is a so-called undetectable amount of virus in your blood. So you would be called negative. It's a little bit of semantics, which means it's wordplay. So that might be what's going on here. This could be a limit of detection thing. I just got through telling you that this PCR is very, very sensitive, and it's very efficient. So if there is even a small amount of virus, this test should detect it. But I don't know. I'm not doing these tests. I'm not in the lab right now, unfortunately. So I can't really say. But it's a theory as to why someone might be considered positive and then negative and then positive again. Maybe they never were negative. You see what I mean? Like maybe they were just qualified as being negative because they were below some kind of limit of detection. I don't know. And anything beyond that is just going to be speculation. And I'd love to have conversations about that with anyone. But yeah. But if we want to go another step further into this, in this situation, that would be really bizarre if we had a positive test, if we had the presence of antibodies, and then they got tested again, and then all of a sudden they didn't have antibodies. That would be really weird. And as an exercise for you people, and I mean this, I want you to try and come up with, if that happened, I want you to try and come up with reasons why that might happen. I really want to hear. Let's do some science. Let's do some critical thinking. So I think that's it. I keep touching my face, but it's okay because I'm in my house and I'm not going anywhere. Don't worry. I think that's it for testing for now. I know everyone is dying to talk about vaccines. I'll get into that. I'll do a new video. maybe.